Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Beachside Podcast and the Beachside Podcast channel. I'm your host, the HOD of the BSB. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of the video, and subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and receive notifications from all the updates of these podcast episodes, and of course the match recaps and all other content on the channel, including this podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, PSP on Instagram. Help us on the way to reach 100, our first K, as we reaching the 100th episode of the podcast. Welcome to episode 98, and join us for more. We kick things off, of course, talking about what happened on Sunday in the European top football, and we kick things off with the Bundesliga. 3 games took place on Sunday, of course, in the Bundesliga, and certainly it was some surprises in those matches yesterday. We start with Arminia Bielefeld defeating Bayer Leverkusen and Leverkusen at their home in the Bay Arena. It was really a shock to the system, in my opinion. Bayer Leverkusen, who were really... they had the whole game for themselves, really. They dominated, they had all the opportunities in the world to score. They managed 75% of possession, 20 shots in total, but against a side like Arminia Bielefeld, they defended really well. For all of their form, really, that is bad in the relegation position that they found themselves in. Arminia Bielefeld, delivered a great game. They had a great performance against Bayer Leverkusen. They managed to, deny them the threat to score in all occasions and for most of the game, really. They denied them the opportunities to score, and they were clinical in their own operation on opportunities to score. Ritsudan opened the scoring in the 17th minute, creating all sorts of problems for Bayer Leverkusen, giving them a lot of headaches, chasing the result going forward, and Masaya Okugawa in the 57th minute adding the second goal for Arminia Bielefeld. Bayer Leverkusen afterwards only tried to chase the game, of course. They couldn't find a lot of opportunities, and they only managed one goal. It turned out to be a consolation goal for Patrick Schick in the late on in the second half, 85 minutes in. Bayer Leverkusen scored their consolation goal. This loss, it takes them in a really bad road. So certainly they drop below Dortmund in the Bundesliga table at 40 points at 6th now, with Dortmund 42 above them at 5th. This could make their life harder. They're already now out of the Europa League, so no European competitions really to compete for. So their only way out is to go through the league system. And it looks like with this kind of form, this kind of performances, these kind of points that being dropped for sides that you're not supposed to be dropping points against the likes of Arminia Bielefeld, really, and especially at home. But the way the goals were conceded, particularly the second goal, defensive mistakes, getting caught on the counter, being open, being exposed again, shooting themselves in the foot once again, which has been almost the motto for Bayer Leverkusen since the turn of the year, since that loss against Bayern in the Christmas period. I think it was, that was the motto. It was the way Bayer Leverkusen operating, shooting themselves in the foot, a lot of defensive mistakes, giving away the ball, giving away goals. Even when they have the better side and they have the more domination, they still find a way to lose, really, against sometimes underwhelming opponents, really, for all that matters. And then, of course, talking about higher business in the Bundesliga, RB Leipzig drawn against Eintracht Frankfurt 1-1, and this is a game just like the other game. The home side had all the possession in the world. Leipzig had all the momentum in the world. They had the chances, they had the opportunities, of course, to score. They started strong, really. In the first 15 minutes, they missed around 2 or 3 clear-cut chances to score, but still, it was a combination of, Kevin Trapp, goalkeeping well for Eintracht Frankfurt, and also a lack of good finishing from Leipzig, which is something pretty common this season. The fact that Leipzig do not exactly have the greatest finishing in the world. They could score, they are a good team, but somehow they lack the finishing, they usually did when they had, the likes of Timo Werner before. Dayot Upamecano went down injured in this game, which is, a big letdown, I think, for the side. They would need someone like him in the back in what is coming in the near future, at least for the rest of this season, of course, because he's going to Bayern next season, changing the colours. So you need someone like him up front. The pressure of Leipzig, of course, been rewarded, not in the first half, but early on in the second half. Emil Forsberg scores the opening goal from a follow-up from the shot of Marcel Sabitzer. 1-0 for Leipzig, and you think they're fine to control the lead and to dominate the game, and they were until the goal of Daichi Kamada, which exposed a lot of troubles in the back, and it showed why the importance of someone like Dayot Upamecano. Of course, that was replaced by Lucas Klostermann, which made the backline sort of a full backline with him, Orban and Marcel Hanstenberg, as well as Nordi Mukiele, and if anything, Leipzig do not function that well, with Lucas Klostermann as a centre-half. They don't really do. They tend to be as a centre-half in the back four. So the lack of cover, the exposure of the defence was easy to see, was easy to spot in the goal. Daichi Kamada was on his own in the 6-yard box. He takes the shot. Gulacsi scrambles, but it goes in. 1-1 for Frankfurt, and they solved the game. They really solved the game. They had a couple of opportunities after the goal really to add a second goal and maybe stun Leipzig and get 3 points, but they couldn't. So they solved the game, defended really well, and they managed the 1-1 draw. The 1-1 draw that will hurt Leipzig certainly more than it will hurt Eintracht Frankfurt. It will really put Leipzig in a foul mood. I think 4 points now behind Bayern. I mean, is the title race done this way? Now, obviously, the game against Bayern is going to take place on the 4th of April, right after the international break and all of that, but is it going to be the end of the title race here? Like, can we say that this is the day RB Leipzig ended their chances of winning the Bundesliga title? Now, 4 points is not a really impossible difference to get over, but certainly not the best of differences to get over. Not the greatest of tasks really to get over those 4 points difference, particularly if you drop points this way, because if Leipzig won, it would be normal, and we would have been talking about this. But drawing now, and this kind of period of the season where it's the important period, it's the business end of the season. You need to keep pressure on Bayern. You need to keep the momentum going at the top of the table. You fail to win. You drop points at home. Yes, against Eintracht Frankfurt, they've been a good side this season, but definitely it will leave a mark really in the Leipzig fans and in the Leipzig players. And eventually, of course, the last game on Sunday in the Bundesliga was Stuttgart defeating Hoffenheim 2-0, and this is at least a game that and the game that went the other way around. Stuttgart were Hoffenheim were more dominant than Stuttgart, had more opportunities than them, were in the attack more than them, but Stuttgart had a resilient defensive performance and scored twice, or at least the first goal was from Kasim Adams on his own net, and the second goal was in the 64th minute from Sasa Kalajdzic. This goal puts Stuttgart at 8th at 36 points. They're not that far from the top 4 spots. Top 6 spots, they could sneak in, and this could be an interesting last 9 fixtures of the Bundesliga. Certainly all the interest in this title race as well between RB Leipzig and Bayern, and trying to see now how things are going to be panning out. Next week, of course, the round 26 of the Bundesliga is going to be Arminia Bielefeld versus RB Leipzig on Friday, Bayern München versus Stuttgart on Saturday, Köln, Borussia Dortmund, Eintracht Frankfurt, Union Berlin, Werder Bremen versus Wolfsburg, Schalke versus Borussia Mönchengladbach, Hoffenheim versus FC Mainz. That's on Sunday, Hertha Berlin, Bayer Leverkusen, and Freiburg Augsburg on next Sunday. Moving on from the Bundesliga to the Serie A, and of course we talked about that in the match recap yesterday, but we're going to be focusing on the Milan-Napoli game, which I made the review of yesterday. You can check it out on the channel as well as the Serie A/Premier League recap from Sunday. On Sunday, of course, we kick things off with Bologna defeating Sampdoria 3-1, Parma defeating Roma 2-0, Torino losing to Inter 2-1, Cagliari losing to Juventus 3-1, and Milan, of course, losing to Napoli 1-0. Certainly an interesting fixture on a lot of different levels. Obviously, at the top of the table now, with the full results now, you can easily see that Inter Milan, 9 points ahead of AC Milan, are easily now on their way to winning the Serie A title. I mean, it will take a complete collapse from Inter Milan, which I don't think will happen at the moment. Again, considering the usual argument that we say every time, that they have no distractions, no European football whatsoever to distract them from the fact that they compete for the title. AC Milan, on the other hand, injuries, and also the European competition that they're still in the Europa League. I mean, focus on the top four, saving the Champions League spot is I think the only priority at the moment for AC Milan. They don't have anything, to think about. I mean, the league looks impossible at the moment, and if you keep dropping points at home and you keep losing in these games, and I know injuries are a big factor, but if you keep losing, there's really no chance, to get into those top four spots or to get into these title winning picture. I mean, some people are still believing even that Juventus are going to be coming back and winning. And yes, Juventus could still somehow feature in the title race somehow. But again, it would take a collapse from Inter. It would take a run of bad form from Inter that would be unprecedented, really, for those two teams to catch up on them. Like, literally, it would take three complete different. I mean, it would take three losses for Inter, at least for those kind. I mean, 3 losses, not just 3 draws, but 3 losses for those two teams to even remotely catch up on them now, because it looks out of possibilities, really, that Inter Milan are going to be dropping the title now, or they're going to be losing the title race now, or losing their lead now. 9 points clear, and not just that. I mean, the squad is fit, and they don't have injury problems like AC Milan do, in particular. So there's that from that side. I mean, they don't have to worry, at least for now. And that is, of course, also because they don't play European football, so they have pretty much the whole week to prepare. They have the whole time to prepare for their league matches, to really go and about them really, really well. So I think they have a big advantage over the likes of Juventus and AC Milan on the table. Speaking of Juventus, of course, their win against Cagliari felt like a big statement, I think. From particularly Cristiano Ronaldo scoring a hat-trick in the first half. I mean, obviously the reports of him returning to Real Madrid, which I did a piece on that, also you can check it out. So I think it's a statement, again, it's a statement win, not just from Juventus to bounce back after the European exit, but also the criticism on Ronaldo has been a little bit harsh, and it really got to Cristiano Ronaldo. And it got to him because the celebration he did wasn't his usual celebration that he jumps up in the air and goes down. He went to the camera on the third goal. He went to the camera and he pointed to his ear and he pointed to his eyes, saying that basically he hears and he sees the criticism, but he's not gonna care. Definitely, that was a good response from him. But also, you could look at it like, okay, you responded against Cagliari, but where were you against Porto when we needed you? That's probably some of you fans would even think that way, and I won't blame them thinking that way because that's, I think, their right to think that way. Again, the victory is important against Cagliari and all. They would still. I mean, there's no worries really about Juventus losing a top 4 spot or not being in the Champions League like AC Milan would, or have that worry in them. But still, this season and under Andrea Pirlo, I mean, is winning the cup on its own and finishing in a Champions League spot considered a success? I mean, with the side that you have in Cristiano Ronaldo in, I don't think so. I'm not really that convinced with the fact that Juventus' season could be a success by winning the cup alone, or by being, by just being in the Champions League spots and being third to AC Milan and Inter Milan and winning the cup. Because, I mean, for Inter, for example, if they win the league, Inter Milan, they would consider it a success, and a big success as well, considering that I think Antonio Conte's job, with the whole mentality of recruitment that he had this season, was to win the title. It was a short term to win the title, to win the Serie A title, because this is his second season with Inter. But as far as I think, as far as everything is concerned for Inter Milan, they are favourites to win. They have all, I think, the setup, should I say, in the world to win the title. And I think as far as AC Milan or Juventus are concerned, it doesn't really even matter in the grand scheme of things that they would they would drop points anyway. AC Milan versus Napoli. I think it again, as I mentioned in the review, this was all about the midfield. They lacked someone like Bennacer AC Milan, and this result is bad on so many levels for AC Milan. I mean, not just bad because they lost. It's another home loss for them. It's another match where they completely shag the bed, really, in terms of how they dealt with the game and how they went about it. Obviously, maybe the exhaustion from the games in the Europa League probably would take to them. Their form has been really. I mean, they have been outright bad in the last couple of games. I mean, they lost now twice, AC Milan. So it's pretty interesting, really, for them. They lost twice back to back now against AC Milan, against Napoli. Sorry, they're losing now 1-0 with the red card in the end. That was stupid. A stupid red card in the end. And, bad performance overall. They only went alive in the last half an hour of the game or so. So not exactly the best of times to be a Milanista at the moment. Again, top 4 is a priority for AC Milan. Nothing really should even come close to thinking about the title. And definitely, try and manage the games each on its own until the end of the season now. And with the Europa League, they're still pretty much in it. It's certainly an interesting thought to see how Milan are going to be dealing with this, and are they going to drop further in the table or not? That's going to be interesting always to see. Of course, in the midweek there's Juventus versus Napoli as far as the Serie A is concerned. Round 28 kicks off on Friday with Parma versus Genoa, Crotone versus Bologna, that's on Saturday, Spezia, Cagliari, Inter versus Sassuolo, Hellas Verona versus Atalanta, Juventus versus Benevento, Udinese, Lazio, Sampdoria, Torino, Fiorentina, Milan, and Roma versus Napoli. Going on across the border now, and we move on to the Premier League. Certainly it was, Sunday, I think, revolved around 2 games in particular, but let's kick things off with talking about the London derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham, of course. Before that, Southampton defeated, of course, lost to Brighton 2-1. Leicester City dropped Sheffield United 5-0 and took the second spot momentarily before the game between Man United and West Ham, where Man United managed to defeat West Ham 1-0. But we're going to kick things off talking about the Premier League North London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham. A 2-1 result that was, I think, flattering for Tottenham. I mean, the 2-1 result makes it look so tight and so competitive and, so two-sided, going both ways, with back and forth, really. But it wasn't. It was Arsenal really playing the attack versus Tottenham playing the defence. There was not a lot of momentum, really, from Tottenham. They only went for it in the later parts of either side of half-time, really, against an Arsenal side that played on the attack, played on the front foot. They had an exciting game for the most part. I mean, Tottenham started decently in particular. And the fact that they got the early goal thanks to Eric Lamela, a beautiful goal. I mean, in the 33rd minute, of course, the injury for Son forced the substitution, entering Eric Lamela. He manages to score the first goal, beautiful goal, a Rabona goal that probably we'll never see again for quite some time. I mean, those goals comes once in a lifetime, and I mean, by the way, kudos to him for thinking about hitting it with a Rabona flick in that position, in that time, in that space. I mean, he was right in front of Thomas Partey. Like, the way he thought about it, like, this is like 1 in a million kind of chance of this being scored, and it went super zipping, fizzing low by the keeper, no chance of saving it, 1-0 for Tottenham, and you think they're fine, but they don't keep the lead long enough. Martin Odegaard, I think, with a shot that clearly took a deflection off Alderweireld going in. 1-1 before half-time, and with Arsenal equalising before half-time, the perfect opportunity really to manage the game. They go forward, they completely pin Tottenham to the back, and the mistakes were in, and pressure creates mistakes, and Davinson Sanchez certainly made a stupid one in the penalty on Alexander Lacazette. Of course, I don't think it needed even VAR to really review it. It was a clear-cut penalty. Lacazette, tried to shoot the ball, missed it, and Davinson Sanchez tried to get to the ball. He went too high, and he clattered into Lacazette's foot. Clear-cut penalty. 2-1 for Arsenal after Lacazette scored. And weirdly, I don't know why Mikel Arteta chose to retract and go back to defence against Tottenham when he was 2-1 up, and particularly after the red card. Like, Eric Lamela was sent off, they were one man down, and somehow they were more attacking than they were 11. I mean, obviously, urgency probably made it sort of, and the necessity is the mother of all inventions, so it looks like the necessity for a point, at least in the game, made Jose Mourinho go all risk, go all out in the last 14 minutes or so to go and try and grab an equaliser. He had golden opportunities to equalise, but it was one golden opportunity really that, as I mentioned in the recap, go on the post from Harry Kane, and then of course the ball from Sissoko cleared out by Gabriel. That was, I think, the most golden of golden opportunities as they could get. They had a goal, of course, chalked off for Harry Kane later on. Definitely this was a game where I'm not going to say that Tottenham deserved the point, because they didn't. Yes, they had an attack in last 15 to 20 minutes, but definitely didn't deserve to win overall. This mentality of caving in for Tottenham, just trying to play on the counter, it didn't work, and with Son being out there, Bale, who had been praising in the last couple of games, returning to form and what have you, he didn't show up. He didn't have a good game. He was subbed on pretty early in the second half, really. All things considered, he was subbed pretty early in the second half, 57th minute for Moussa Sissoko, and nothing would really save Tottenham once they go caving in the back and they lose. Really, they don't know what to do with the possession mostly, and even the chance wasn't a free kick; it wasn't an open play. They don't really know how to create now if they don't have a side that is going to be open enough to expose them on the counter. Arsenal get their 3 points, get the job done, and from out of nothing really, they found themselves only 4 points behind Tottenham. They could sneak into a top 6 spot, maybe, definitely. Unfortunately, they're not in the FA Cup anymore for them, so they won't have the chance to win the FA Cup, so they can get into Europe. A side that could get into Europe next season is West Ham United, although they lost against Manchester United 1-0 away from home at Old Trafford. This is a game that was not exactly that great. United had the opportunities late on in the first half. They only upped the tempo in the later part of the first half. Really, after half an hour, they started really slow, and the fact that Rashford played the whole 90, returning from an injury, is a really, I don't know, it's a weird decision really from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Why you play someone who just returned from injury for 90 minutes against a side like West Ham, who are really well drilled defensively. They have a really good game about them, but the fact is, overall, West Ham were not exactly, they were toothless up front. They didn't have a lot of chances, they didn't have a lot of danger in them, they didn't create a lot of opportunities, and certainly with the absence of someone like Jesse Lingard to move the parts forward, obviously because of the loan clause and what have you. They lacked that player that would be the link between the two, between them and the attackers, with no Benrahma as well. With no Benrahma, of course, on the starting lineup, but he came late on. I don't know why he chose to start Benrahma later on. I thought he could have been really good to deputise for someone like Mark Noble, who cannot really quite do that job of being the number 10 and being the link-up between the players. The own goal from Craig Dawson settles things up, and Man United get the 3 points. Hard as they be, they continue in that good form. They continue. They get another win now. It gets them back to second on the table. I mean, at least they finished the season second, and maybe they win the trophy, depending on what that trophy would be, FA Cup or Europa League mostly. It would be considered a big success, I think, for Man United. A la Jose Mourinho in 2016-17, when he finished second and he won the Europa League, and he considered that a major success, really. I think that started a downward spiral for United anyway. Of course, the action in the Premier League still going to continue, of course, on Monday, with Wolverhampton hosting Wolves, and that's a big game for Wolves. And for Liverpool, of course, this is going to be, I think, after the European qualification for Liverpool, this should be a game where they return to actual form in the league, because they need to save a top 4 spots. It doesn't really get any harder than this season for Liverpool. They are 8th at the table, 43 points. They have the opportunity to jump over Tottenham and Everton with their games in hand and go up to 6 at least for the moment on Monday. Finishing off with La Liga in Spain, 4 matches were played yesterday. Not a lot of things happened in them, pretty much. The only important thing was the Sevilla derby between Sevilla and Real Betis. It ends for the red side of the city, 1-0 for Sevilla. Of course, the goal coming in from Yusuf Al-Nasiri in the second half, coming in the first half in the 27th minute from the assist from Jesus Navas. Continues his goal scoring exploits in Spain. Eibar lost to Villarreal 3-1, and Villarreal, of course, going one man down later on in the game, inside 10 minutes of the end, from Etienne Capot getting sent off. But of course, they managed to continue to win 3-1 against Eibar away. From home, Granada managed to defeat Real Sociedad 1-0. They continue their exploits themselves in the season. In La Liga, they found themselves 8th with 36 points. Granada in a really good spot, also with some Europa League accomplishments to their name. Celta Vigo drawn 0-0 against Athletic Bilbao. That was it for the games on Sunday, of course, for these La Liga, but still, definitely Barcelona versus Huesca is a big game to look forward to on Monday in La Liga. That's it from me for this episode. Always aboard the HID of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from the content of the channel, including the podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. And of course, follow us on social media, site PSP on Twitter, Pitch Sideboard on Instagram. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.